Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I'm going to read the chapter summary, and then maybe when we get around chapter 20 or 21 or 2, then we can begin to read the text, because otherwise you're all going to be here all day. As explained in this chapter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being very pleased with the Payovrat ceremony performed by Aditi, appeared before her in full opulence. At her request, the Lord agreed to become her son. Why did Aditi perform the Payovrat? She wanted specifically to get a son who would restore, or somebody who would come, who would restore the Devatas to their rightful position as the controllers of heaven. They had been kicked out by the vicissitudes of time. Through the agency of the demons, they had been kicked out of their rightful posts in the heavenly kingdom. And that was okay with them. They were prepared to go underground, so to speak, because Brihaspati had advised them to do that. He said, the time's just not right for you. There's a proper time for everything. Sometimes when the times are tough, one just has to wait it out. Otherwise, if you try to react to the kala, to the time factor, and try to correct what is actually coming to you by providence, then all you really do is set in motion a further chain of reactions that cause you to suffer in the future. So sometimes you just have to stick it out and bite the bullet, as they say. So Brihaspati, knowing this well, as the priest of the demigods, he had advised the demigods that you just go underground. Go live incognito in some other place. So they were doing that. But the mother of the demigods, who was Aditi, she was just not really very happy at all. She really just, it's not really specified here, I think. Maybe in the purports, if you check, you can see exactly what her attitude was. But she just was not happy that her sons were kicked out like that. So she specifically performed this vrata for 12 days. It's described in previous chapters here, for those of you who are losing sleep over it. She performed this vrat, and the Lord appeared to her and said, I'll become your son, because she was a devotee. What kind of devotee was she? Huh? Karma Mishra devotee? Vatsalya devotee? Any other conjectures here? Sagacious input. My mata is that she is the mother of Krishna. She is the Yashoda. Whether she was, in fact, acting in terms of the internal potency or whether it was her mundane representative, that's another matter, because we know from Brahma Samhita and from other Vedic literatures and acharyas that demigods, they often have their Vaikuntha counterpart and they often have their mundane counterpart. Just like sometimes we say that, who is the wife of Lord Brahma? And who is the wife of Lord Jagannath? Saraswati. So what goes? Father and son have the same wife. You see? There is a mundane counterpart. Just like Durga Devi. Durga Devi is the mundane counterpart of Lakshmi, Srimati Radharani. This is described with regards to Subhadra Devi. Subhadra Devi is in fact both of them at the same time. She's the internal potency Yogamaya, and she's also the external potency Yogamaya. So she's all of them. So if you really want to get some mercy, then worship Subhadra Devi. Then you get your material prosperity and your spiritual. The problem is that she's got some big brothers. Or at least they're more powerful than her. She works under their protection. So really we have to deal ultimately, somehow or other we have to deal with Krishna. And Krishna is therefore the real problem for a devotee. Devotee doesn't have any problem from Maya. He has no fear of Maya. Non-devotees have no fear of God, on the other hand. And they think that Maya is their friend until she pokes them with her trident in her Durga manifestation. So there's Durga Devi. She also has her internal potency counterpart, which is Lakshmi. And then, of course, Lakshmi, it doesn't start there either. Lakshmi herself is just representing Jayashri, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Jayashri, we know that there are 8 Lakshmi forms, right? Is Jayashri one of them?
Vijayalakshmi.
Vijayalakshmi. So, especially in South India, they know her as Vijayalakshmi, but Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says the reason she is called Jayashri is because if you put a shoe there, then it will be tamed a little bit. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that she's called Jayashri because although she is Shri, she is the particular manifestation of Shri that conquers Krishna. Therefore she's called Jayashri, and she even conquers Lakshmi herself. Radharani is the origin of Lakshmi, and the Lakshmis are expanded in all the Vishnu forms. With every incarnation of Krishna, there's a corresponding Lakshmi form. The corresponding form for Ramchandra is? Nowadays, people wonder whose father Sita is. So, but you all know this. So, and similarly, Yashoda is there also. She has her spiritual form, and she also has her godly form in the Svarga form, according to Sanatana Goswami. So, in Dwarka, Mother Yashoda's expansion is Devaki, who is also in Mathura, of course. And in the Swarga realm, she becomes Dhara, or Prishni, Prishni Garbha? Sutapa and Prishni? I think it's Prishni, because the Lord is known as Prishni Garbha, who took birth in her womb. And in this world also we have everybody, even we have our so-called Yashoda in the form of our own mother. It's a perverted manifestation. As it becomes increasingly, as the internal potency becomes increasingly perverted, we get so many manifestations. In this way, Lord Krishna is all-pervading. Lilayitena bhuvanani jayati ajasram. But his eternal pastimes, his yogamaya pastimes, they are the dominant ones. Lilayitena bhuvanani jayati ajasram. In an eternal way, he conquers in this material world through his divine pastimes. So one of those is Bali Maharaj being cheated by Vamana Dev. Chalayasi vikramane balimad bhuta Vamana paranakhanira janita janapavana Keshava dhrita Vamana rupa jaya jagadisha hare. He came and cheated Baliraj of his land and restored the Devatas to their rightful place. That was his appearance. That was his purpose of his mission. Because he's one of the avatars. The avatars, they come, they're called Lila avatars or Guna avatars. Different kinds of avatars are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But they come to perform a specific function. Krishna, on the other hand, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, after listing many of the incarnations, at least a couple of dozen or a score of them are mentioned, and then finally at the end of this list, we know the famous verse. Who can recite it? Ete changsha kalat pungsa krishnas tu bhagavan swayam. This tu word is here very important. Tu means? No, that's in Hindi. In Sanskrit, tu means but. It's short for kintu. Right? Kintu or parantu. Right? Hindi, parantu is short. Parantu becomes par.
Parantu lekin.
Yeah, parantu they say in Bengali. Do you have this in Tamil? Parantu? No. In Hindi they take off the antu. They just par. Yes, par. So, two. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. The Bhagavan, the actual Bhagavan himself is Krishna. This is the massive importance. The massive ramifications of this statement are delineated by Srila Jiva Goswami, whose appearance day is today, in his various writings, particularly in his Shat Sandarbhas, where he sets about explaining this particular verse from the Bhagavatam in great detail. In fact, he calls it a Paribhasha Shloka, or Paribhasha Sutra of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It means a definitive, pivotal, what Shankaracharya might call a Mahavakya, a great utterance. A very, very important statement is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna is actually the origin of all these Vishnu avatars, and similarly Radharani is actually the origin of all these Lakshmi forms. And then the avatars, they have their representations, their, perverted representations in this material world as various demigods. and it expands even more perverted than that and becomes to living entities as well. So some of our friends who say that we're all God, they can do so on the strength of this logic at least. But there's a big difference between the internal potency and the external potency, just as there's a big difference between a drop of water from the ocean and the entire ocean itself. You see? So it does matter. Nityo nityanam chaitanash chaitananam ego bahunam yo vedadhati kaman. That although there are so many eternal living entities, and although there are so many sentient beings, still, one of those is actually supplying all the desires of all the others. That is the distinguishing factor. That person happens to be Krishna, whose avatar is Vamana Deva.
Like Vishwaksena also being Ganesh? Prabhu?
Yeah, exactly. Vishwaksena, right? Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnam. We're talking about Vishwaksena, in fact, who happens to be the right-hand man, so to speak, of Lord Narayana. So in this mature world I mentioned this morning, he's called Vinayaka. Vinayaka. Nayaka means what? Leader. Somebody who leads you, Neta. And Vinayaka means not Vishesh Nayaka, but Vigata Nayaka. He's leading you in the wrong direction. In other words, he is removing all the obstacles. Tasmai namo viktam vinashanaya. He's removing your obstacles for material progress. Or as Brahma Samhita says, Vignam Vihantum Alam Asya Jagat Trayasya. For the three worlds, he is removing all the obstacles to everybody's program. Therefore, everybody is very fond of worshipping Ganesh, as in fact they should be if they're on the Karma Marga. That's appropriate for them. But the real smart person, Parikshya Lokan Karmichitan Brahmanon Nirvedam Ayanasya Krata Kratena Tad Vigyanartham Sagurum Evabigatset Samitpani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. The smart person sees that this karmic stuff, it really ultimately goes nowhere, because although I worship Ganesh and get the obstacles removed and get my desire fulfilled, and then once the desire is fulfilled, what have you got? Nothing, except the karma. Then you have to then you set in motion some reaction again, like we mentioned already. So you cannot overcome the miseries that are inherent, that are endemic in material existence, just by certainly not by big karma, not by trying to buck the system, because you really can't win if you try to fight against the demigods. They're more powerful than us. But even if you go with them, and even if you work according to the tenets of the Vedas, within the karma mark, the path of karmic fruitive activities, even then you really can't win, because ultimately you end up with nothing but the bill. And you've got to pay the bill at some point. There's no such thing as a free lunch, as we say. So the wise person, the Brahmana, according to the, Mundaka Upanishad, I think, the wise person says, there's nothing here that's not the result of either my own karma or your karma or a combination of the two. So what is the point of adding karma to karma or subtracting karma from karma? You still end up with karma and it goes nowhere. Tad Vigyanartham, to understand what's really absolute truth in that case, what are we advised to do? Tad Vigyanartham Sagurum Evavigatse. Eva, you have to do this. Abhigatse, not Abhigatsati. Abhigatsati means they do it. Right? You could do it, or you might do it. Or some people do it, but not you. No, Evavigatse, this is called Vithiling. It's an injunction. You have to do it. So if you're interested in becoming freed from the misery that pockmarks the entire process of karma, then you have to do this. Otherwise, you have to live with, you get in a car accident. You lose your fingers. In a bad period of, say, Rahu or Saturn, you make a big mistake, and anything can happen. You see? There are accidents even on royal roads. Even the demigods we see, they've been kicked out of the heavenly realm. They're the ones who are organized, they're the administrators of our karma, and yet they have to undergo their own, to some degree. At least they have to undergo the vicissitudes of time, as I said. We discussed this morning, I forget who was speaking, but I think it was Bali Maharaj was saying, All this is due to the time factor. Just like after Kurukshetra, Yudhishthira was completely distraught. He went to Bhishma Deva and said, what can I do to atone for look at all these people, I brought about their deaths. He was thinking, imagine, It's like, because there are accidents even on royal roads, certainly there are accidents on mundane roads. What happens if you have a car accident and kill someone? Can you imagine having to live with that for the rest of your life? I know someone that happened to. He's a devotee, actually. We're not saved either. We have our karma, and Krishna's, whatever his own purpose, he allows us to undergo our own karma as well. See? So, Yudhishthira Maharaj went to Bhishma Deva and said, I'm just completely upset about this. Give me some wisdom. And he said, what is it? Manye kala kritam sarvam. All this I consider to be done just by eternal time. It's not Yudhishthira's fault. He's not suffering his karma. He's a pure devotee. He's working under Krishna's charge, right? Why so many good people were killed? It's a mystery. Natasya hakarahechid rajan, he continues, nobody can understand the plan of Krishna. Therefore, don't judge anyone. Don't judge other people. We don't know what the history is. Just like somebody comes to Mangalartik one morning, and somebody else, let's say in the ashram, doesn't come to Mangalartik. Now you can point at the person who doesn't come to Mangalartik, and you can speculate why he's not coming to Mangalartik, but you don't really know. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he ate too much last night. We just don't know. We're looking at one phase of time. And in order to get real answers to these questions, you have to look at all three phases of time, and we don't have that capacity. And we're too proud to admit that we don't have that capacity as well. Therefore, we maintain this illusion that I can know these things. Everybody in society, it's commonly accepted because now it's become a social convention due to the contamination of the age. You see? So everybody feels competent to judge everybody else, but they really can't. I have no idea what's going on, even with our own karma, what to speak of anyone else's karma. So Bhishma Deva was telling Yudhishthira Maharaj this. And similarly, the word is used in this connection that the Devas had been kicked out of heaven. The ones who were administrating everybody's karma, including the karma of the demons. But they've been kicked out by those very same demons. You see how it's so difficult. Hitopadesh therefore says, Likitim avilalate pronsitam kasamartha. Who is able to overcome what is written on their forehead? It's considered that your karma is written on your forehead. And even the people who are administrating that karma, they can't overcome it. You have questions?
That's why it's so difficult to understand when you have an organization, like let's say ISKCON organization, and then in the administration there's so many interactions that leaders have with the different kinds of devotees, and some devotees have some point of view and they want to stress, and another one's different points of view, and they
Atma parigyanam ayodavado hyastiti nastiti bhidartha nishtha. Krishna says in 11th canto, telling Uddhava, on the basis of incomplete realization, to which we're nonetheless extremely attached and vociferous, right? Where everybody's just firm. Bhidartha nishtha. It's as if his very purpose is to remain firmly entrenched in his position, right? Especially if you check out the internet, you can see that people take this position. Bhidartha nishtha. It's as if their very faith is that I have to differ from someone else. And in fact, you do. If you want profit and adoration or distinction in this world, you really do have to contribute something new. Yasya rishir yasya matam na bhinnam. You cannot become a rishi at least unless you say something new. Just like when you go to college, you cannot get your PhD unless you contribute something original. You see? So people are arguing on the basis of incomplete realizations. But my point is one step beyond that. That our incomplete realizations are not taking into factor what is our faith, what is the mode of our faith. It's not considering that. You really have to consider that, because once you go there, then you realize that, hey, my opinions are based on your subjective faith, so koi bhi fark hai kya? Is there any difference? There's no difference. Therefore, tarko pratishtha, argument is useless. Even the Shrutis say different things. And armed with the subjective faith of an incomplete realization, we will go and throw those Shrutis in someone else's face. You see, this is what we do. So when you get to any institution, it's not just ISKCON, it's everywhere. Everywhere. Even Vaishnava institutions, I've seen many that they have all the same problems. It becomes a problem, because I think, in devotional service, it probably is a bigger problem in the sense that everything that we're doing has absolute significance. In the material world, it doesn't have that absolute significance because you're just working on your karma and you can blow things off if you want. But if Krishna wants you to do X and somebody else thinks that Krishna wants you to do Y, then you've got a real conflict. Therefore, we have the GBC. Prabhupada established this system. Not Prabhupada, his guru established this system. Because he saw that on an institutional level, for the purpose of management, and Prabhupada made that very clear, for those who would not curb their theocratic tendencies, it's the ultimate managerial authority, Srila Prabhupada said, not the ultimate, spiritual or theological authority. For the purpose of what Krishna calls social solidarity in Bhagavad Gita, we need to have that. Some degree of the democratic principle is there, it would seem, that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced. What is this social solidarity in Bhagavad Gita? I never heard that, because it's translated differently. The word is Loka Sangraha in chapter 3. You can look it up. Loka Sangraha Mevapi. Krishna says, for the purpose of social solidarity, for keeping peace and order within society, you have to do your own swadharma. That is across the board, and that's objective. That everybody has to follow. But it's not that everybody has to follow the same dharma. You see, that's individualized, because we're all, everybody's got different backgrounds and different karmas and different propensities, and so, therefore, Srila Prabhupada emphasized so much on these two things. Number one, he established his GBC and he really wanted it to work. And number two, he was really pushing on this idea of Varnashram Dharma, because these two things, they can introduce objectivity into the otherwise totally subjective and incomplete faith of the neophyte devotees that will always make up the majority of the members of this society. It's the best you can do. So, Brihaspati had advised Devas to flee heaven, and they were doing that. They were hiding in the guise of so many mortals and other things. And these demons, they had actually, I don't know whether they actually took over their employment or whatever they were doing. It's not entirely clear to me, at least. But in this condition, this is the context. And in this context, Mother Aditi, she just couldn't stand this, that her sons were being so humiliated and, we're having to undergo such difficulties. Just like now we're living in West Los Angeles, one of the relatively nicer parts of the city. What happens if we're all kicked out of this place and we all have to go and live in South Central Los Angeles? You're all going to Watts now. You have to live in Watts. Right? You do all know about Watts? I don't know, where was Rodney King? That's like ancient history. So Watts riots were, I didn't know you were born yet, I think. But anyway, every once in a while they have riots in the bad part of town. That's why the government now is opening up these concentration camps. You know about this? The Clinton administration passed into law that they have the National Guard and other governmental and even more scary non-governmental agencies. They can actually round up citizens who become unruly in times like Hurricane Katrina, for example, and they can actually start just throwing them into concentration camps. Just they're not going to call it that, of course, but it amounts to the same thing, and it's perfectly legal. People don't know this. They're certainly not going to advertise it on the news media outlets that are controlled by the same corporations that run the government that makes these measures. But this is actually what's going on. And as I said this morning, your food is 100 miles away. Keep that in mind as well. You're not in charge of how it gets here. Somebody else is. You know? So next time we think that we're dependent, we can do anything. I can drive to the store and buy anything I want. Not so, God. Not so. So this is the pride that we have in this material world, and Bali Maharaj was completely full of this. So much so that Lord Vishnu had to hatch this plan. Once he had promised his mother, I would become the son of Aditi. Then he figured out, now how am I going to get this guy? He's so proud, and he's ousted all the devas, and rightly so. It would seem his time when he was favorable. We mentioned this morning, why was he favored? That he could kick out the devatas? Anybody remember? He followed his guru. He pleased his guru Shukracharya. Just see the blessings. Guru Kripa, the power of it. Guru Kripa bina nahi koi sadhan bal, they say in Hindi. Means either you don't have the strength to perform your sadhana, or even though you're performing your sadhana, it has no potency. Guru Kripa bina. Without the blessings of the spiritual master. It's a very, very important point. And it doesn't even matter if you're, it would seem from this narration, it doesn't even matter that your guru is the guru of the demons. Guru to guru hai. Right? Because Brihaspati he's like the sattvic guru. And Shukracharya, he's more rajasic. He's for the materialistic side, for the demons. But because they got his blessings had the potency because the guru is representing God. I know this, what do you say? Anybody? Andhra Pradesh, you're from there, right? No? Who's from Andhra? Namaskaram Upantragaru. Right? Your teacher is considered a very respectable person, right? Hindi man, they call it Master G. At least they used to. I don't know. Do they still do it? I don't know. They still do it? Some places they still do it. The places that haven't learned yet, places that haven't watched too much television or spend too much time on the internet, they still do it. So, as I said, Guru to Guru, he is the representative of Bhagavan, even if he's representing Bhagavan in a demoniac capacity, as Shukracharya was. Right? It's like they also do Pati Deva. That's another one that's kind of being thrown out the window. Right? Pativrata, the ladies. Apashya Surya, ladies. They consider the husband is also a god. Anybody who takes, to the extent that you take any authoritative position, to that extent you become a representative of God. And if you don't do it right, then the heavy karma comes down on your head. Therefore, this story is there of the intelligent dog from Ramayana. You know this one? The Brahmin was beating the dog, and this dog went, I'm one of the prajas here, I have a right also. He went to Ramchandra and he complained, this man is beating me. So Ramchandra said, so what do you want? He said, well, you should punish him. And Ramchandra's also very smart. You see how he operates. He said, what do you think I should do to punish him? He didn't get involved in making it, right? So the dog thought for a minute and said, I think you should make him the Marhadhish. Marhadhish, that means temple president. Now what's going on here? He's going to sit on the Vyasasan, they're going to bring him Mahaprasadam, they're going to put the garland on his head, he has a lot of prestige and respect. Why are you making him the Marhadhish? Ramchandra is asking the dog. The dog says, well, because I know a person in his capacity, he will not be able to fulfill that dharma. He'll not be able to fulfill that role. He will mess it up, and when he does, then he has to suffer heavy karmic reactions, and I don't get the karma for it. Because I gave him something nice. You give him a rope long enough and he hangs himself with it. You know what they're saying? You give him a rope long enough and he hangs himself. Ramchandra he's a very intelligent dog. So Vamanadeva is also like this. He's figuring out how am I going to cheat this Baliraj out of his, he's in a good position right now. So his chips are high, so to speak, and all the devas are in a bad position. That's why Brihaspati was also smart. He said, don't even try it. Don't even try fighting them, or they're going to wipe you out. See, a wise man knows when to act and when not to act. We heard this morning from Srila Prabhupada about Jyotish. Sometimes it's helpful. Right? Sometimes it is helpful. So a wise man, he knows what the proper time is, what to do, what do they call it? Desha Kala Patra, time, place, and circumstance. He is a good judge of these three, and you have to be. That is called what? Discrimination. And discrimination is the key word of Madhyama Adhikar in Bhakti. Everybody knows what is Madhyama Adhikar? Kanishta Adhikar, Madhyama Adhikar, and Uttama Adhikar. There are three things in devotional service. The Kanishta Bhakta, he appreciates that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and he sees the Lord in the temple, but he's not able to appreciate the Lord outside the temple. Once he goes out in the material world, then he's his old self again, and it's pretty much mostly Maya. And because that's his own position, therefore he cannot appreciate who's a devotee and who's not a devotee. He gets very confused. And sometimes he commits offenses to people who are really devotees, therefore. And he doesn't appreciate the devotees of the Lord. He only thinks it's just me and Krishna and forget everybody else. That's Kanishta Adhikar. Madhyama Adhikar, and another aspect of Kanishta Adhikar, he's not able to discriminate on the basis of scripture because he just doesn't know it so much. So he can be swayed by a good talker. If somebody puts forward a good argument, he's not able to really assess whether this is bona fide or not. Because he doesn't have the education, so to speak. Now, Madhyama Adhikar, he is able to see, he befriends the Supreme Lord, he shows mercy to the less fortunate, and he makes friends with people who are equal. Right? What is it? Prema, Maitri, Kripo, Peksha. And he neglects the demons. He neglects the envious. This is Madhyama Adhikar. But it's predicated on the assumption that he's able to discriminate who is the devotee and who's not the devotee. And he is, because he has studied the Shastra more. His faith is not entirely perfect yet, but he's in a better situation, relatively speaking, than the Kanishta Adhikar. And then the Uttama Adhikari, he's rock solid. His faith is not Komala. His faith is Nishtha. And he knows the Shastra in and out. And he can make a convincing argument on that basis. And he sees that everything is perfect. Everything going on is perfect. That's his vision. Because he's looking at it from the perspective of the Supreme Lord. That's his elevated status. He has so much empathy for the Supreme Lord that he can see things through the Lord's eyes. In fact, most Vaishnavas, except for our school, most Vaishnavas consider this to be an aspect of Sayujya Mukti. We don't say this, but some others do say this. So, how did I get on this point? People can be confused easily.
The Rakshasas also, their karma is also being dealt by the Devatas.
Yeah. So anyway, Bali Maharaj, he found himself in this position. He wasn't really sure what to do. So the demigod said, you should, now that you have conquered heaven, now that you have everything, you have to maintain your position in terms of mundane piety. And in order to do that, you should perform 100 Ashvamedha Yajnas. Because that's, in terms of karma kanda, that's like the best thing you can possibly do, is 100 Ashvamedhas. Right? That's what Indra had done, remember? Or tried. So he was engaged in that way, and it would seem that he actually came here to do that, because he was in this place called Brigughatsa, on the bank of the Narmada River. Where's that? Where does the Narmada River flow? Gujarat. And I think also maybe Madhya Pradesh. But Brigughatsa?
Gujarat state.
Yes, Gujarat state. So where is Brigughatsa within Gujarat? Anybody know? Smart ones? Paroch. Paroch. Now they call it Paroch, but it's actually a corruption of the name, Sanskrit name, Brigughatsa. So Bali Maharaj was actually performing his Ashvamedha Yajnas there. And at that point, Lord Vishnu came. He came to interrupt his program. He had been advised by Shukracharya, if you do this, nobody can touch you. You will remain rock solid and you can stay here forever. This is the demoniac intent, you see. But note how intelligent he was. Although he was a demon, and although his purpose was material enjoyment, he knew that the way to do this is through pious activity, not through vikarma. That is the difference between Bali Maharaj and ourselves. We think, oh, this is all mythology, and there's no need for this, this Vedic rituals are outdated anyways, and nothing works in Kali Yuga, and so many things we think, therefore we suffer. Those who are smart, they know. You really can't, you have to respect the demigods somehow or other. Better than that, of course, as Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita, Nistrai Gunya Bhava. He says you become above these three modes altogether and take to pure devotional service. But in the material world, for those who are not willing to engage in devotional service, for those persons, Krishna says in the same verse I mentioned already, Loka Sangharam Evapi, just at least for social solidarity, you should encourage them in this kind of pious activity. Then they can do it without hurting anybody too much. So here we see that Baliraj, that was his intention. He wanted to use the system for his own benefit. That's what made him a demon. One could wonder, one could question, and one should question, that how is he considered to be a demon, even though he's so intelligent, he's giving in charity to the Brahmins, he's performing 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas, he's living in a holy place, Bhrugukach, on this earth, outside of his home. He's able to conquer the heavenly planet somehow through fate, through the blessings of his guru. It would seem that he's better than us. In many ways. In many ways he was. And not only him, so was Hiranyakashipu, this deity of Varahadev in Mathura. Anybody ever seen? In Mathura there's a deity of Varahadev, old deity. So it's described that this deity was originally in Swargaloka, worshipped by Indra. When Swarga was conquered by Hiranyakashipu, he took the deity to Sri Lanka. When Ramchandra defeated Ravana. When Ramchandra defeated Ravana, the deity was brought back to Ayodhya, and when he dispatched Shatrughna to manage Madhuvan or Mathura, then Shatrughna took the deity with him, and since then the deity is in Mathura. Right? But the point that I'm making here is that even Ravana was worshipping this deity. You see? Of Vishnu, his enemy. Something to think about, isn't it? We're also worshipping Vishnu. And Vishnu maybe is our enemy. See, that's why I'm able to speak with authority on these matters. Anyway, you are all more pious birth than me. But this is Bali's program. He wanted to use this Vedic system for his own ends, and that's what made him a demon. So be careful. Be careful. Don't do this. It doesn't work. Just as Vishnu cheated Hiranyakashipu, right? You know the benediction he was given by Brahma? Lord Vishnu found a loophole. And he killed him anyways. Similarly, Lord Vishnu is coming to cheat Bali Maharaj. So how did he do it? He came to this place of sacrifice incognito. In what form did he come? A cute little kid. What kind of cute little kid? A little
dwarf.
A pudgy little Brahmin. Very cute. I mean, who would not... Anybody been to Haridwar?
Yeah.
Haridwar, you've been to Chotiwala? You know the little guy they have there? Very cute. Right. So you like that. You know the place, right?
Heard of it.
Yeah. Anyways, mundane place, but maybe not so mundane. But so he comes in the form of this cute little dwarf Brahmin, and they say in Bengali, Bamun. Brahmin, how you say Brahmin in Bengali, they say Bamun. Just like in Mayapur, you have this place called Baman Pukur. So the place where the Brahmins live. So maybe that's probably where Vamana Dev, maybe it came as a corruption of Brahman, who knows? I don't know, but somebody can look it up if you're losing sleep over it. So Vamana Dev comes in this cute little form, and all the women, they adored him. He was just adorable. All the women immediately fell in love with him with maternal affection. And even the sages there, they were quite impressed, because as soon as he stepped into the arena, he manifested this great effulgence that they couldn't explain. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kashi, right? When he went to see who was that sannyasi, Prakash Anand Saraswati, he sat down in the place where people wash their where people leave their shoes and wash their feet, right? In that place, Muchi place. But at the same time, he manifested this prakash that was just completely bewildered everybody. They thought this person has got to be into this yajna arena, and all the sages immediately, they were just astonished at who is this personality. And Baliraj himself saw Vamana Deva and he thought, now we're dealing with something very serious here. So he came and he washed the Lord's feet with great respect. He said, anything you want, I can give you anything in the three worlds. I'm the king of the three worlds right now. I can give you anything. He didn't think right now because the demons don't think like that. They think this is going to go on forever. They just assume that this is for real. It's not for real. It's very, very short-lived. The problem is that our memory is very short-term as well. We've all, like Alzheimer's. Spiritually, we're ALZ. We're spiritual Alzheimer's, dementia patients. We don't have a long memory span either. So he offered him everything, and what did Vamana Deva reply? Anybody know? Those of you who were here this morning, you remember.
3 steps of.
He said, if I don't have satisfaction, internal satisfaction in my heart, I know this. If I don't have santushti within myself, then even you give me all three worlds, I'm still not going to be satisfied, because dushpurena analena cha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. What is that verse? Anybody know? Whole verse? Dushpurena analena cha. So lust is like fire. The more fuel you pour on it, the more it burns. You cannot put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. It just doesn't work. See? So in the same way, this is how desire works. You got to have one desire, and you go and become kripa prarthi in front of the deity, and then Krishna gives you his mercy and fulfills your desire, and then you go back and say, well, now I need this, and now I need that, and on and on and on and on, and Krishna just says, oh, I'm so relieved. I thought this person was going to ask me for something substantial. You want gyan? No problem. This morning a devotee came to me and said, if I wish I had as much gyan as you do. I just laughed at him. I said, once you have gyan, then you realize that it's a curse without bhakti. It's a curse. And similarly, Baliraj had all the opulence in the three worlds, but what is the downside of that opulence that, according to Srila Prabhupada, and this purports on this chapter, for those of you who've read, you become proud. Especially Lakshmi. Lakshmi, if she gives you her blessings, you become very puffed up very quick. That's just the nature. Because we have this mentality from an infected heart that we're carrying with us as psychological baggage life after life. Therefore, Lakshmi, that's one reason that being the wife of Lord Vishnu, she is sympathetic. She's working with the same purpose as her husband. She does not want to give this to the Brahmanas very easily. Therefore, we see the Brahmins are always struggling. Real Brahmins, not bogus Brahmins who do other things. But real Brahmins, they generally are poor. Part of that is because of the curse of Lakshmi as a result of Brigu's treatment. By the way, Brigu Katsa, Brigu. These were Brigu Vamshi Brahmins who were doing the sacrifice for this Shukracharya in Brigu Katsa. You see? So, see how it all ties together, you see? So Lakshmi, she doesn't really bless the Brahmins so much, and particularly the Briguvamshi Brahmins, she's not going to bless them. She's not going to forget. Sometimes you worship the deity of Krishna, you see his little pada mark on his chest. Anybody seen this? Some Gopals, they have it. That's the Brigupada. Brigupadankita, He's marked with a footprint from when Brigu Muni kicked him in the chest. So Lakshmi's not going to forgive that. Anyway, so all the opulence is short-lived, and the demons they don't think of this too much, or at least they don't like to be reminded of it. Right? Hey, you just don't you. The karmis, they'll say, hey, you're just a wet blanket. Don't rain on my parade. Don't be so negative, right? And our Mayavadi, the Gyanis, our Mayavadi friends, they'll say, hey, don't introduce duality here. We don't want to hear that. Right? So he was in this mood, and therefore Vishnu had to trick him. He wouldn't listen to knowledge. He was a demon. Therefore, Vishnu had to figure out a ways to trick him, and he came in this dwarf brahmachari mode, and everybody was instantly awestruck at his what do we call this? Tejas, we can say. He just manifested this prabha, this effulgence and influence. So Baliraj also offered him everything, and Vamana Deva said, "I don't want anything except for santushti. Therefore, if I'm not satisfied with 3 steps of land, then how am I possibly going to be satisfied with 3 worlds?" Lord Krishna is sometimes called Triadhisha. What does that mean? Triadhisha?
Lord of 3 steps.
The Lord of Threes. He's also called Trivikrama, Lord Vamana Deva in particular. Trivikrama because he has 3 Vikramas. With 3 steps he went all over the universe. This name goes all the way back to the Vedas in the Shruti mantras. This pastime is glorified. 3 steps of land. So Baliraj he was completely full of himself at this point, and he was just laughing. Now his spiritual master Shukracharya then stepped in and warned him. He said, "Look out. This is not an ordinary Brahmin, as you've probably guessed by now. There's something special about him." Everybody could see there was something he was not, there was something different. "Look out, he's Vishnu, he's going to cheat you. Don't do it. Don't give him what he wants." Even though he's only asking for 3 steps of land, remember Hiranyakashipu, what happened to him? So he said, don't do it. Don't do it. Now, when the spiritual master by whose grace you have conquered the Devas and gained the heavenly realm, when he tells you not to do something, it might be a good idea to listen. Right? But Bali Maharaj did not listen to his own spiritual master. He rejected his spiritual master. Why? Sometimes people raise the doubt that, well, I can reject my spiritual master and go join Gaudiya Math, or I can find some other guru that I'm more happy with. Right? Yeah, it's a very good point. But the difference is that Shukracharya was telling Bali Maharaj, do not worship Vishnu. That is not the case with any ISKCON guru, as far as I can tell. I mean, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. He was instructed, he was given an instruction that was contrary to the conclusion of the Vedic literatures. At least according to Madhvacharya, every word of the Vedas is indicating devotional service to Vishnu. Mm-hmm. So if somebody comes and says, don't worship Vishnu, which is exactly what Shukracharya was doing, then that person can be rejected lawfully. What's your question?
On the first case, Prabhu, the Guru Shukracharya did tell him to kind of chuck out all these demigods by fighting with them. But the demigods are servants of Vishnu, right? And we consider any offense to the servants of Vishnu like more offensive than Vishnu himself. So
that's a very good point. But offense to a devotee is relative. Just like there's relative stages of liberation, right? It's not just all one thing. There's many different kinds of liberation. It depends on what you want. What is your desire? What is your asha? What is your aspiration? Then you will get a corresponding liberation. Whatever you spend the most time out of your 24-hour day doing, that's probably where you're going in your next life. Well put. You see? So what kind of desire are we cultivating right here and now for the next life? We have to think about this. You have an eternal constitutional identity as a specific servant of Krishna. What kind of servant? We have no idea. So how are we going to get there? You think that you're just going to die and then just pop into the spiritual world and everything is all that you just... There's a preset template waiting for you and they just plug you in. No. We have what we call sadhana. Sadhana bhakti means you have to practice. And one aspect of that sadhana bhakti is Vaidhi bhakti. Of course, it goes without saying that we have to follow the rules and regulations of the scripture. But another aspect is called raganuga sadhana. It means you have to follow your heart. What's in your heart? We're not even in touch with what's in our heart. What's in our heart is the new car, or the wife, or getting the kids through school, or making sure that we maintain our prestige in society, or the next big career move that I'm planning. these are the things that we're carefully protecting and cherishing within our hearts, instead of the lotus feet of Vamana. Krishna. You see?
But can you utilize that in Krishna consciousness instead of that?
Now, everything can be used in Krishna consciousness. That's not the issue here. Just like Baliraj, even though he had conquered everything, he had stolen everything that there was to steal within the three worlds, basically. That was his position. But, when you put a 1 in front of all those zeros, then it becomes a very fantastic amount. Therefore, Baliraj, because he actually surrendered within his heart, right? On the Raganuga level, we might say. Because he surrendered his raga to Krishna. Therefore, he instantly become perhaps the greatest of the Mahajanas. Certainly a very, very great Mahajana. 12 Mahajanas in devotional service. These are the Uttama Adhikar. These are the greatest of the bhaktas. So Baliraj is one of them. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Your question was, did I answer it?
No, I don't understand. Maybe so. My question was on the first step when Sukracharya instructed him to fight a war against these Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I remember. I'm getting there. So there are different kinds of Vaishnavas. That's my point. After a long digression, and there are Sakama devotees and there are Nishkama devotees. An offense to a devotee who's Nishkama is more powerful than an offense to a devotee who's Sakama. And the demigods they're all considered to be Sakama devotees. Why Sakama? Sakama, as the name implies, they have some desire. They have some material desire. They're not free from the tinge of the same demoniac spirit that is motivating Baliraj. They're not totally free from it. They're in mundane Sattvaguna, and we know from Bhagavad Gita that mundane Sattvaguna always has to be mixed with some degree of the other modes, passion and ignorance. So even the demigods, they have some degree of passion and ignorance, and that's why they fall. Until you come to the platform of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, without any tinge of independent desire from Krishna, without any tinge of rajas or tamas. By the way, what does the word rajas mean?
Passion.
Huh?
Passion.
Passion. What else does it mean? Raja.
King. Raja means dust.
Raja means dust, dirt, contamination. So rajas, to the extent you have passion, you have contamination. Okay. Sanskrit is a beautiful language in this way. You get a sense of the meaning of the word by its very etymology and definition. So, it would seem from this narration and from others like it that Lord Vishnu will allow these Sakama devotees to get their hard knocks every once in a while as well. I mean, the Devas were all kicked out of Heavenly Planet. They're supposed to be devotees. Why would Lord Vishnu allow that to happen? Now, by extension, just apply this to your own life. If you are a pure devotee, you've got no problem. But to the extent that you have you're holding something back from Krishna, to that extent you are going to feel the pinpricks of you-know-who. With that wonderful trident that we call Tapatraya. Who holds the trident and rides on a tiger? And whose representation is she? Inverse representation? Huh?
Vishnu's mind.
I'm hearing a lot of answers.
Radharani.
Radharani. Radharani, Lakshmi, Parvati, Ityadi. Eventually it comes Durga. You see? You cannot escape. You can run, but you can't hide. Vishnu's authority is all-pervading, through his representatives, through his energies. And the chief energy is Srimati Radharani. But if you don't want to deal with Radharani on Krishna's terms, then you have to deal with Maya Devi on her husband's terms. Kala, Mahakala. Time factor. And the time factor will remove, even if you're the king of heaven, the time factor will take away everything from you. You see? Where is it? Ujjain, I think. They worship, he's called Mahakala. I think it's Ujjain. Maybe it's Udaipur, I don't remember. Eklinji. I think the deity is Eklinji. Anyway, so this is Baliraj's position. And, so the Sakama devotees, sometimes Krishna allows them, not necessarily out of harsh, neglect, but because Krishna knows. In fact, Bali Maharaj, later on in this narration, he prays. He offers some nice prayers, and he mentions that Krishna knows that this is actually for their good. They have to feel a little pinch sometimes. But karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. For those who take part, bhaja means to participate. For those who are participants in bhakti, then for those persons the karma is burnt almost to ashes. It's extremely reduced. So, Baliraj is being cheated. Now, Shukracharya is telling him not to worship Vamana, and Baliraj begins to calculate in his mind. He's wavering. This is the Tatastha Shakti in living technicolor, as we say. This is the Tatastha Shakti. Now, we all do this, don't we? When we're beset with a problematic circumstance, when we're beset with a temptation, or when we're beset with some very overwhelming tribulations, we begin to totter, isn't it? We begin to waver. Our faith.
Prabhuji was telling about the symptoms. No, not the symptoms.
About the importance of discriminating in what our mode of faith is.
So how can one say I have some symptoms? What are the symptoms? Okay, I'm in this mode. Okay.
Yeah, in general, the modes of material nature are discussed in chapters 17, 18, 14. And the faith that corresponds to those modes can be deduced from the symptoms of those modes that are given there.
Yeah, this is not a question, it's a suggestion. But it came with my wife. Since we do appreciate you very much, the way the topics you're bringing it up, I thought that we want to take advantage of your presence here, and I thought that maybe next Sunday we can cover that. If you can, in my home, we can have a program like that similarly.
Yeah.
And it's next Sunday, we say? Next Sunday about the same time, if you don't have any other.
Yeah, let me double check calendar.
Check, and then we can have and we can discuss this.
Yeah, it's very, very important thing,
yeah.
Especially for Indians. I would say it's important for reasons I just can't get into right now. But
yeah.
All right, let's get back on track here and focus.
But now I have a question.
Okay.
Now I have a
Got to
question.
bookmark my thought here.
But it is mentioned many times that how Lord Krishna, in different ways, tricks the demons.
Yeah.
They get benefit.
Yeah, in every way, Krishna will trick you.
Does he tricks his devotees too?
Of course, we're also demons.
Yes,
I am. In the beginning, Krishna says, Chaturvidas bhajante mam, janasukritan arjuna, right? What four kinds of motivated sakama devotees, that is to say, what kind come to Krishna? Four kinds. Do anybody know? Artha, the person who is disturbed. Artharthi, the person who wants money. Jignasu, the person who's curious. And what else? Jnani, the person who knows. See? These are pious persons. They're more elevated than most people in the world, at least in the sense that they're able to approach Krishna. But they still have some personal cut they're putting for themselves. Mm-hmm. Right? And that is always a demoniac spirit. Anything for me, if it's 100% for Krishna, then it's bhakti. Anything for me, then it's sakama bhakti. It's probate bhakti, what we call bhakti abhas, shadow bhakti.
So he tricks in both ways.
So he'll trick the devotees too, because we have the demoniac propensities in our heart. Mm-hmm. And he'll trick us. So, believe me, he'll trick you.
Oh no, I have that in you. This is just a
And be careful when you're going to Mayapur and praying to Lord Narasimhadev. That's my warning. In the mode of Shukracharya. Because if you ask him to pull out all the stops, believe you me, he will do that very thing. And your life will become very difficult. So be very careful what you ask for, because you might just get it. Now that works in both mayas, and it works in the material realm also. Be careful about asking for temporary things, because that's all you'll end up with. And you end up with nothing but a temporary thing, and then once it burns out, finished. Then what do? Then you got to go find some other master to become a kripa parti for it. Mm-hmm. So be careful. This Krishna, he's not to be trusted. But he will see, as we see in this narration, he ultimately does good for everyone, because he's really nice. Krishna is very cool. And he's a very nice person, and he's the nicest person actually that there is. Therefore you cannot have Kam va dayalum sharanam vrajema aho bakiyam stanakala kutam Jikasayapayayapyasadvi lebhegatim dhatri uchito tatonyam. In the third canto, Shukdev Goswami says, where is the more merciful person to go to but Krishna? Krishna, this Putana, Baki, sister of Bakasura, you know their sister, right? Brother and sister? Baki Baka. So his sister went to Krishna in the form of Putana to kill Krishna. That was her intention. She had smeared her breast with Kalakuta, very powerful kind of poison. Time poison. Kalakuta. And this was her insidious motivation for approaching Krishna. In the innocent guise of, what could be more innocent than a mother breastfeeding baby? There's nothing more pure than that. So, I mean, see how the demons think. Such an infected mentality she had. And she came to Krishna with this insidious, horrible motive to kill him. And Krishna, nonetheless, he sucked out her life and gave her the position, not just Sayujya Mukti, not like Hiranyakashipu and other demons. What did he give her? Dhatri Uchitam. Dhatri Uchitam. A position appropriate for a nursemaid. In Goloka Vrindavan. Can you imagine that? We should only hope that he will be so kind to us. So Krishna is so nice. He's so nice to us. And it's been my personal observation in 3 decades of Krishna consciousness that a person really, really has to be very stubborn and obstinately work with all of their volition to escape from Krishna in order for him to let you go. It would seem that way to me, at least. That's my opinion. You have to really work hard to be totally thrown out because Lord Chaitanya is so merciful. He's so merciful, I say this many times in the 11th canto, quoting 11th canto. He comes running after us. No matter what form we're in this material world, he'll come after us, chasing us. Anuadhava, the word is used. Means running after us. So kam vadayalam sharanam vrajema. There's no more merciful Lord that I could go to, no more merciful person that I could worship. So Bali Maharaj was actually starting to turn all these thoughts over in his mind. And then he also considered, what is my grandfather? My grandfather bolted from our family and went over to the demigods. Why? Who is his grandfather? Prahlad Maharaj. So he began to think about why Prahlad did that. Then another very pivotal thing here, maybe the most important thing that actually saved him, was he had this commitment to telling the truth. He didn't want to lie. And because he already offered Vamadev anything you want, he had to fulfill that promise. He had to do it. If I don't give him this 3 steps of land, even though my guru says he's cheating me, if I don't give it to him, then I'm going to break this tradition. Nobody in my family has ever refused a Brahmin. Even though they were demons, even though they were, the enemies of Vishnu, still they were performing yajnas. Nobody ever lied. They kept their promises, and they gave in charity to the Brahmins. He felt, I have to do this. Even if he was self-motivated, just like, nowadays you have to put up a plaque in somebody's name in the temple in order to motivate them to give anything, So, people generally, they give charity because they want to have some good name or whatever in this world. So even if there was some tinge of that, still he had the fortitude, he had the strength of character that having made his promise, he was going to, come what may, I'm going to keep my promise to this Brahmin. That attracted Lord Vishnu. Srila Prabhupada comments. Lord Vishnu appreciated his integrity in that respect. Therefore, even though Lord Vishnu took everything away from him and punished him pretty severely, in the end, he gave him a better condition than the one that he lost. He lost to Svargaloka. But in exchange for Svargaloka, in the end, what Vishnu gave him was a place in Bilasvarga, which was the subterranean heaven planets, and in Sutala, the particular place. This Sutala is not even attainable by the demigods. So now look at the irony here. The greatest demigods don't have the punya to get into this place. They cannot become members of this club. And it's nicer there than it is even in heaven. Just like it's in some respects it's nicer, say, in Palos Verdes than it is in India. Right? So Vishnu, ultimately, he's working for everyone's benefit, and so Bali Maharaj is thinking about all these things. His mind is really, it must have been racing. You can't imagine what he must have been undergoing at this time. And he was a demon. Now he's got to go against his family tradition, and he's got to reject his spiritual master, and he did it. What a step that was. He rejected his spiritual master and said, no, I'm going to give him what I promised, because that was my word, I'm keeping it. And all the demons are, oh my God, what are we going to do now? They're starting to think, they're getting dollar signs in their eyes. They're thinking, oh, now what's going to happen to my maintenance, right? We're going to lose everything. That his thinking was completely confirmed. He says, I've already done it now. I have to just go all the way. He said, you put it here. Put your foot right here. He surrendered. He completely surrendered to Vishnu. Bali Maharaj ki, Vamana Dev ki, Krishna Kripa ki. So then, now Vishnu did a very strange thing. What did he do this? Now, Vamana Dev. He tied him up like this. And consequently, although you have punished me in many ways, I do not feel ashamed of having been arrested by the ropes of Varuna, nor do I feel aggrieved. Who does this remind you of? There was another so-called demon who was actually quite happy to be killed by Indra, Vritrasura, in the 6th canto. Very similar attitude. My grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, is famous, being recognized by all your devotees. Is it not a fact? Every morning we recognize him, don't we? Prahlad Maharaj ki. Although harassed in many ways by his father Hiranyakashipu, he still remained faithful, taking shelter at your lotus feet. I like to remind people, Prahlad had not read the script. Right? He was being harassed by his father and so on. What would give him any hope to, well, if I just stick it out for another hour or so, Nrsingadev is coming at dusk. Right? What would have given him so? He had no such hope. There was nothing to encourage him at all. Nothing. Sometimes when things get bad, we need to, that's why this Bhagavatam has these stories. We need to look at our troubles are not really very significant compared to Prahlad Maharaj. Troubles that he went under. So, he remained faithful, taking shelter at your lotus feet. What is the use of the material body which automatically leaves its owner at the end of life? And what is the use of all one's family members, who are actually plunderers, taking away money that is useful for the service of the Lord in spiritual opulence? That's Shaji Dulal's point he raised. What is the use of a wife? She is only the source of increasing material conditions. And what is the use of the family, home, country, and community? Attachment for them merely wastes the valuable energy of one's lifetime. My grandfather, the best of all men, who achieved unlimited knowledge and was worshipable for everyone, was afraid of the common men of this world, in this world. Being fully convinced of the substantiality afforded by the shelter at your lotus feet, he took shelter at your lotus feet against the will of his father and demoniac friends, who were killed by your own self. See, he's realizing that even if I were to follow this path, what's the point? These guys are all going to be killed by you. And in fact, they were. The demons, some of the demons, once they saw that this person has bolted from our party and gone to the other side, to the enemy side. Enemy side, if you're a demon, means Vishnu. Right? Once they saw that, we said, we got to kill this guy right away. And they tried to kill Vamanadev. Even though he was a Brahmin, they were prepared to kill him. Because when one becomes frenzied through lust, remember, as I mentioned, they're thinking, our whole livelihood is being thrown out the window right here. We got to do something. So they thought that let's fight him and get this heavenly realm back. And what happened to them? All of them were killed. Not a single one left alive. Only Bali. You see? So he was foreseeing this. He was intelligent enough to calculate like this. Now, he concludes his prayers. Only by providence have I been forcibly brought under your lotus feet and deprived of all my opulence. Because of the illusion created by temporary opulence, people in general who live under material conditions, facing accidental death at every moment, do not understand that this life is temporary. We've already discussed this. Only by providence have I been saved from that condition. Now, Prabhupada has a nice purport here. Bali Maharaj appreciated the actions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although all the members of the demoniac families except Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj considered Vishnu their eternal, traditional enemy. Oh, well, we don't worship Vishnu. Right? We worship Shukracharya or whoever else. As described by Bali Maharaj, Lord Vishnu was actually not the enemy of the family, but the best friend of the family. The principle of this friendship has already been stated. Yasyaham anugrishnami harishyeta dhanam shanai. The Lord bestows special favor upon his devotee by taking away all his material opulences. Bali Maharaj appreciated this behavior of the Lord. Therefore he said, Daivena nita prasabham tyajita shri. It is to bring me to the right platform of eternal life that you have put me into these circumstances. Daivena, by fate. The commentators, at least Jiva Goswami on this verse, he says, what kind of fate is it? I mentioned Kala before. By fate, sometimes even the demigods have to lose their positions, and similarly by fate, sometimes even the demons will take charge of the heavenly realms. So that's one possible meaning of Daivena here, by fate, but that's not what Jiva Goswami says. Jiva Goswami says the fate or the providence that Maharaj Bali is mentioning here means his being the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. Because of being Prahlad's grandson, he must have had some bhakti samskar. He must have had some good favor. Favorable qualities. And it would seem from Prabhupada's comments elsewhere in this narration that it was his integrity that attracted the Lord. The Lord was appreciative. Here it's stated that Bali Maharaj appreciated the behavior of the Lord, but the Lord also appreciated the behavior of Bali Maharaj. And that's called mercy. We don't know. As Shakespeare said, the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth from heaven as if a gentle rain. You cannot predict mercy, you can't control mercy, you can't even understand mercy. But for his own reasons, sometimes the Lord just chooses to give us some mercy. And that's what we depend on. Rupa Goswami says, like a chatak bird, right? They fly in the sky all the time in India. You see them with their mouth open. They're just waiting for a raindrop to come out of the sky. And if it comes and falls in the puddle, they won't touch it. They'll only take the one that's falling through the sky before it hits the ground. That's called Paramahamsa. They don't want any of this stuff that's already sullied by Maya, you see. So Bali Maharaj had actually made this deliberate decision to just go the opposite way, against all of his training, against all of his tradition, against his, his material desires, whatever he had. He actually made this firm determination that I'm just going to turn the whole thing inside out. And that's what he did. And he did it on the basis of this integrity that he had, that at least I have to be truthful. He mentioned this morning that this dharma is in this age of Kali Yuga in particular, it's only left standing on one leg. Dharma, figuratively speaking, is compared to be a bull. Dharma. And the three legs of that bull have been chopped by Kali. And there's only one leg left standing. And what is that? Satya. What are the four legs? Who knows? Satya, Daya, what else?
Mercy.
Kripa,
Cleanliness.
Shaucham. Yeah. Cleanliness, austerity, mercy, truthfulness. And the only one that we really have in this age, we have a little truthfulness. Now this wasn't in Kali Yuga, of course. This was in a separate manu altogether. But Bali Maharaj had this truthfulness, and somehow or other that Lord Vamana Deva was very appreciative of that. And he gave him this mercy. Then, after hearing these prayers, he said, okay, I'm going to give you a place in Sutala, so-called hellish planet, because where does a demon belong but in hell? But it's like class AAA suite in hell. And, in fact, more than that, what else did he do? Those of you who were there this morning, you know.
He
He said, you need somebody to hold your door open. I'm going to do that myself. The Supreme Personality of Godhead going to hell and holding open the door for the biggest demon in the world. That is called anuwadhava, chasing after his devotee. That is the mercy, unlimited mercy of the Supreme Lord. What a wonderful pastime. What a wonderful pastime. So we can think about these things today. And by the way, as we've mentioned already, Jiva Goswami, today is his appearance day. So we should also pray at his lotus feet. That maybe the Lord can be as kind to us as he was on Bali Maharaj. We certainly cannot hope to become a great Mahajan like Bali Maharaj, but at least if we can come a little closer.
You said that the Sandarbhas are the same that the ones that are Kushakrata translated, or these are very good?
Yeah, the Jiva Goswami's main philosophical work, actually he is the main philosophical author at Govardhan.
What would be the difference?
Well, it's the same book, it's just that there's, this was, well, I don't want to say.
All right, the same. Don't say, but as a purpose only, any purpose?
The Sandarbhas are very, very difficult book to understand, and I don't personally think that anybody except for Gopi Paranandana Prabhu could even attempt it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see there's any scholar in our movement who has the capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So, any BBT translation, there will be a commentary as well.
Mm-hmm.
It may be Gopi Paranandana Prabhu's commentary, or it may be commentaries of previous acharyas as well. I'm not really sure, I'm not up on that. But it's coming out, and don't hold your breath, because it's a long thing, it's a massive project. Yeah, well, at least six books, 6 Sandarbhas, and I'm thinking it's going to be pretty good.
Okay, Prabhu, I have 2 questions. The first one is the saying Mata Pita, Guru and Bhagavan. Is that a bona fide reference, or can we use it or apply it to this?
The saying Mata Pita Guru
Deva, Bhagavan.
Yeah.
They say that.
Well, it's a question of how you interpret it, I think.
That's what I want to know.
It's like, Prabhupada told the devotees, I think it was in London, they were chanting this, what is that, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva, Maheshwara, famous shloka. And Prabhupada actually told the devotees not to chant that, because it is chanted so often by the Mayavadis that just on hearing it, you can hardly but think of the Mayavad interpretation. However, in fact, that verse appears in Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami and in other places, and so there is a proper way to interpret it. So this is the problem, When we have various references in Vedic literature, sometimes the only known interpretation is one that's dubious. So, Prabhupada had his own reasons at the time for instructing the devotees like that. I would say that at some point it behooves us to really put forward the correct interpretation.
Because
the verse is bona fide.
Yeah, okay. When I preach to somebody, they argue that, there's this, and should I listen to my mom first, or should I try to serve Guru?
Well, that's not to say that they're all absolutely equivalent. No, of course not. We've already discussed that. The Bhagavan is the supreme authority. Then he has his mundane representatives, but to the extent that they become Sakama representatives, they're not able to represent Bhagavan. So you can't take shelter of, just in, Bandhu. Well, my friends are telling me that this is Krishna conscious, so that's what I'm going to do, even though Krishna says something else in Bhagavad Gita. It doesn't work.
And the second question is based on what he was saying, discriminating the different adhikaris. At least in Bhakti Yoga, Krishna Prema is our ultimate goal, and the more advanced we get, the more lowly we think of ourselves, that I'm not a bhakta, I'm not the bhakti.
Yeah.
Then, so at any point we go beyond Madhyama Adhikari, we won't even think about evaluating ourselves, because we always think that we are even below Kanishka Adhikari.
Yeah.
Then why should we have the understanding of these Adhikaris, because we're not going to evaluate at any point?
This is a very good question. Does everybody understand the question, or should I restate it? Yeah, it's a little bit complex, this question. That in the different levels of adhikar that I mentioned with regards to devotional service, there's Kanishta adhikar, Madhyam adhikar, and Uttam adhikar. The Uttama Adhikari is a person who by his very nature, because he sees things from Krishna's perspective, he doesn't make any real firm distinction between even the internal and external energy. For him it's